Welcome to Community Church. I'm Alicia. I'm your worship associate this morning. It is a joy to be with you today. Community Church is a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. You can look to your weekly email for announcements. Today, we are very happy to welcome 5 different speakers to our pulpit, and we'll introduce them when they come. As today is our Sunday to meditate on the meaning of community, and in particular, of this beloved community. And in that spirit, we would like to welcome any new and returning visitors today. We hope you will stay after the service for refreshments and fellowship. And in that spirit, please turn to your neighbors, especially those who perhaps you don't know very well, and say hello. Aren't you glad we started adding that into our service? Because we seem to really like it. That's good. Our opening words today come from Craig Rowland, who was inspired by the words of Estefania Mitre. You deserve a place that welcomes your becoming, that knows your fire is not too much and your silence not too little. A place that sees your shadows and still reaches for your light. You deserve a community that listens when you speak your truth, that sits with you in turmoil and rises with you in joy, that believes in your voice even when it trembles. You deserve a circle that brings you hope and coffee and poetry, a place to rest, a place to rise. Let this flame be that place, not perfect, but possible, not without cracks, but full of light. Welcome home. It is our ritual to light a chalice, invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing the words of the chalice lighting, which are printed in your order of service. I believe I saw that we had some children with us today. They're in the hallway. But regardless, whether they're children here or far, let us sing our children out for their religious education. Our first reading today comes from Parker J. Palmer. This is from an essay called 13 Ways of Looking at Community. So if you're inspired by this essay, the whole thing is wonderful. I'm just going to talk about one of the ways of looking at community, but I highly recommend the entire essay. Whether we know it or not, or like it or not, or honor it or not, we are embedded in community. Whether we think of ourselves as biological creatures or spiritual beings or both, the truth remains. We were created in and for a complex ecology of relatedness, and without it, we would wither and die. This simple fact has critical implications. Community is not a goal to be achieved, but a gift to be received. When we treat community as a product that we must manufacture instead of a gift that we have been given, it will elude us eternally. When we try to make community happen, driven by desire, design, and determination, places within us where the ego often lurks, we can make a good guess at the outcome. We will exhaust ourselves and alienate each other, snapping the connections we yearn for. Too many relationships have been diminished or destroyed by a drive towards community building, which evokes a grasping that is the opposite of what we need to do. Relax into our created condition and receive the gift we have been given. Now is our time of sacred joys and sorrows. If you're online, you may write your joys and sorrows in the comment section to be read out loud. And in person, you may write them out on one of the cards being passed out by our greeters. Please remain seated for our next hymn, which is in the paperback teal hymnal, 1011, Return Again. From Heidi, I am back in town for 3 months for my global adventures in house and pet sitting. Joyful and grateful to have this home of fellowship to return to. So welcome back, Heidi. From Jim, a joy to experience last night. 20 songwriters sing in protest and hope for our country. From Jada, my friend Jason just finished radiation for throat cancer. He's feeling a lot better. Congratulations for Jason. And from Kathy, it is a great joy to have Esther with us today. And I'll second that. No. So we will light 2 more candles and pause for a moment of silence, recognizing the joys and sorrows of those in our community, spoken and unspoken. Our second reading comes from Adrienne Marie Brown. The most important personal and political skill to develop is how to be in relationship to others. There are at this moment communities all over the world who are learning together, learning new ways of surviving and caring for each other, and sharing the physical and mental and emotional space that we have together. We have a sense of the planet and our cities and our homes, all of it is being limited. Simultaneously, we have the internal experience, at least I hope others have the experience, of being limitless, that infinite capacity to love and be loved, to care and be cared for, to open up and listen up. That capacity is within us in every moment we feel we have reached a limit. The practice of being in relationship with others is what we are missing. Individualism, personal individualism and national or patriotic individualism has created a loneliness amongst humans which is not survivable. The tendency to fight for what is mine or ours at the cost of what is yours or theirs means that we can become convinced that we must destroy in order to protect what belongs to us, even if that destruction is of our very selves. But everything we destroy is part of the meta-system that we too must exist on. In community, our potential is truly realized. What we have to offer to each other is not merely critique, anger, commentary, ownership, and false power. We have the capacity to hold each other and serve each other, heal each other, create for and with each other, forgive each other, and liberate ourselves and each other. So in this context, I ask you to ask yourself, who are you in relationship with? And how can you go deeper, be more present, and offer more of your whole self? So raise your hand if you chose to be here today. All right. Most of us here today have chosen to be at community church this morning. Community is a beautiful thing, and as one of our readings today tells us, it is a gift to be received. But that doesn't mean that it's not challenging at times or doesn't need our mindful engagement in order to sustain itself. And this community has been through many different iterations. It existed before almost all of us in this room. And I hope that it will exist long after all of us are gone. And it's evolved constantly. And in September, our new minister arrives, and that means that this community will evolve again. So today is a moment for us to spend some time sharing and contemplating what this particular community has meant to us and why we continue to choose it week after week when really no one is forcing us to. We have 5 speakers who are going to speak to us today on the notion of community. And if we have some time after, and I think we will, because we really zipped through that first part of the service, then perhaps we can open up the floor to some others as well. So I'm going to start with Walter Laban for his thoughts.
Good morning. I was, for the first 60 some odd years of my life, a Roman Catholic. In fact, for the last 20 years of my teaching career, I taught at a Catholic high school, Archbishop Rummel. Periodically, I had doubts about some Catholic doctrines, and eventually I decided to look for a religion which put reason over blind faith. I was favorably impressed by what I had heard of Unitarianism, and when I moved my family here to Lakeview, I noticed our old church building, and I called the number on the sign. I met with Jim Vanderweel, the pastor, and attended a few services. In 2009, Linda and I officially became members of Community Church. I found a home in Community Church. With a number of you, I participate in a bi-weekly class led by Reverend Jacqueline. The topic is the philosophy of Unitarianism, and I think the last paragraph of our text sums up our religion. I'd like to read it to you. We believe in the spirit of Christianity rather than its doctrines. The spirit is love. That is, actively caring about the well-being of others as well as our own, and actively caring about the quality of all life on earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Next, we will bring up our past president, Deborah Salvador.
So for me, it all began with original sin. As soon as I was old enough to understand, probably around 6, that as a result of my infant baptism, I had been forgiven of original sin, I began to have serious doubts about the Catholic faith. After all, by virtue of being born, I had been saddled with a sin which I had not committed, and which to this day I have never really understood. This was in sharp contrast to the teaching that God was a loving Father. If that were so, why would he pin some sin on an innocent newborn? And further, why was it that if I and my little neighborhood friends were to die tomorrow, it would only be me who would be saved, because Sharon down the street was Lutheran and Dawn was Baptist. And so neither had been baptized at the ripe old age of 6. I could go on with things like the Pope and the distinction between venial and mortal sins and whatever, but suffice it to say that from an early age, this dogma-rich community was not doing it for me. Over the years, I tried other faith-based communities, but even then, they were usually just variations on a theme. So something was missing until I was out to dinner with a couple of new faculty members like me at Virginia Tech when I first joined. The subject turned to finding a church home in our new hometown, and one of them said that she had recently attended the UU church. When I asked her what she thought about it, she said, well, it really didn't appeal to me much because they seemed so very focused on social justice. Something clicked at that moment. And the very next Sunday, I was there, and from then on, I have been a UU. And as a result, I've also come to understand that what I really am is a humanist. The main draw for me was certainly first the focus on social justice, but also that there was no dogma and that all people are welcome. This was the community that I had been seeking since as a little child. I had worried about my friends who might not be saved just because of the family they had been born into. And this is a community that will embrace and support me and anyone else, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or any other arbitrary delineation of human beings. And so that's why I'm here today.
Next, we will bring up Alan Malone.
Morning. If I have nothing else, I think I have seniority here. Does anybody date their membership in the Unitarian Church before November 13th, 1942? Well, that's when I became a Unitarian. I emerged from a Unitarian womb with a Unitarian mom and dad, and I've been a Unitarian ever since, and nothing else. I didn't discover this religion. It just, it's been with me like a second skin. Of course, when I was little, there was not too much going on in my little brain, and my mom and dad would disappear with some other adults, and they seemed to be very happy when they'd come home. And my dad worked for an oil company, and we got transferred around a lot. So we didn't have a chance to put down a lot of roots the way some of you Southerners seem to do. And my mom was not the kind of person who was very outgoing. Sometimes we'd be living in a little neighborhood, and she wouldn't even know the name of the lady who lived next door, if you can imagine that. So anyway, we came to New Orleans in 1956, and I was 14 years old, and they had, it wasn't the first church back then, it was the church, the Unitarian Church, led by Reverend Albert Orlando, a very active and vital community member. He was a spark plug of the movement, the civil rights movement. And as I joined the Junior LRY, which was a Junior Liberal Religious Youth, which was a youth program, very active in those days. In fact, they were my first friends that I made as a 14-year-old when I came to town. That's what I thought the church was. I thought it was the movement, because that's all they ever talked about. And they had, I would say a word that I hope nobody disapproves of, but they had Negroes sitting next to us white folks. And in those days, the word Negro was not an unpleasant word. But anyway, it was a very radical thing to go through in those days. It was the days of the McCarthy hearings and the Red Scare. And many of our friends and neighbors were mainstream Southerners, which was pretty bad. It still is. So anyway, we later on, as I grew up, I became friendly with Reverend Orlando. His wife was my art teacher at Country Day School, so I got some connections there. In the early 70s, when Marilyn and I got married, we moved into this house, which was right down the street from what's her name? I'm 80 now, so names don't stick with me too well. But this nice room we're in, it was named for, thank you, Avis. Avis was also a minion of Country Day School. So I guess she was my first friend from this community back in those days. That was 50-some years ago, right? But religion was never part of our friendship. We never even talked about religion in the early days, but later on we discovered that we were both interested in this church. Well, I got married, got a career, got going, didn't go to church, didn't have a church, didn't think about religion. Had one day a week off, and I spent that skydiving. So that was my religion for about 9 years. And my dad, in the meantime, had retired. They moved to the North Shore, and he and some other people got together and started doing the Unitarian thing. And first thing you know, they had a church going. He was one of the founding members up there, and they had quite a lively little group going, although I didn't participate. In 1998, I retired from my job teaching. By the way, we've got 2 physics teachers in the congregation here, and I'm one of them. And you just heard the other one, so I don't know what there is about physics teachers and Unitarianism. But anyway, I started going up there to see my father in the hospital. He had a series of these little TIA strokes, and they were trying to treat them in the hospital. And I met a lot of these folks from North Shore. We became friendly with quite a few of them. And then when he died, Marilyn suggested maybe this would be a good time to start going to church. I was recently retired. I had a little bit of extra time on my hands. So we started going to the North Shore Church. We drove, it was 55 minutes, wasn't it? A 55-minute drive from our house up there, and then another 55 minutes coming back. We had a good time up there. We liked the people very much, although we were not spiritually in accord with them. They were the kind of people who liked to sit around staring at their navel and humming and putting their feet flat on the floor and listening to themselves breathe. That is not the kind of activity that Marilyn and I like to spend our time on, especially now that our years are diminishing into very few. We don't want to spend them doing that kind of thing. Anyway, other than that, the people up there were very nice, and we regularly attended up there for 17 years. Finally, we had lost our minister up there, and nobody seemed to be looking for a minister to replace him. We had noticed in our travels, we used to travel a lot in those days, and we'd go on a Sunday, we'd look up the nearest UU service, and we noticed that of the ones we attended, the ones that had clergy, professional clergy, seemed to do a better job with their services than the people who did not. So we were kind of anxious to go to a church that had a professional clergy person, and of course we knew some people from this group. Marianne and Al were good friends of ours. I don't remember how that happened. We've been friends so long, we can't remember how it started. But anyway, we knew in the abstract about Reverend Jim Vanderweel, and we were very, very tired of doing all that driving across the causeway every week. So we came over and talked to Reverend Jim, and he said he'd be happy to have us if we'd like to come. And he immediately sat us down and said that he wanted our time, our treasure, and our talent, which means we had to write him a check, and we got slapped onto a committee. I was on the worship committee, and I really liked that. I remained on the worship committee throughout the rest of Jim's tenure, and then Darcy came along. Darcy, you probably remember her. I was really a big fan of hers. I thought she was a wonderful clergy person, and I remained on the committee. And then she went away, and I went away from the committee, and I guess it's about time I joined another committee, but that's my history of participation in the group. In the, how many years? Let's see, it was 1998 plus 17, something like that, 18. That was about how long it was ago that we've been members. Made many, many good friends, enjoyed your company, enjoyed the variety of personalities and talents that we all have as a group. And we particularly enjoy participating in our dinners for six these days. That's our favorite thing to do socially. And we feel very much at home here. We look forward to coming to church every Sunday. And I've changed my opinion about this lay-led services. The committee, which I'm now not on, has been doing such a bang-up job. I think we've been having some really, really good services in the last several years. And so I've changed my mind about that. But anyway, as soon as I changed my mind, guess what happened? They decided to hire another clergy person. So I hope either he's going to be really good, or if he's not, we can change him around to where he will be really, really good. And I'm very happy to be here. And I guess I can quote Tiny Tim and say, God bless us, everyone.
Next, we have Bill Rashall.
Morning, everybody. So, why do I choose to be a part of the CCUU family? Like so many other things in my life, it's really Alice's fault. It was February of 2025, and my wife Alice and I, like so many people, were frightened, unsure of what to do. What could we do? Against all hope and expectation, our country had done the unthinkable again. The future seemed dark and ominous, and we felt alone. Don't think I'm crazy, Alice said, but I'm going to church. That was odd. Neither of us were religious and certainly not church people, but why not? Alice's father and stepmother had been CCUU members in the 80s and 90s. If Cliff and Laura liked it, Unitarian Universalism couldn't be too bad. She came here, and she came home, and she told me she had enjoyed the service. Would I come with her next week? It seemed like a strange request, but why not? The next Sunday, Reverend Jane gave a sermon on the vision that lets us focus on work, on life, and keeps us from despair. I needed that. I felt better. I was in. What we found after that was community, a group of people that shared not just our fears, but our hopes and our values. We were not as alone as we had thought. From that community came opportunity, chances to do good, to make a difference that we would not otherwise have had. One of the important ones for me was a chance to sing, at first in the congregation and then in the choir. And why do I put that first? Because I firmly believe that people raising joyful voices together is a powerful weapon against darkness and despair. When we stand with joy and purpose in our hearts and lift our voices, tyrants should tremble, for we are still fighting. There are so many other ways to make a difference through the CCUU community. Our food pantry helps people who might otherwise hunger. The Community Fridge Project is another important way that we help people in need. I hope we never need it, but the Community Lighthouse is a powerful symbol of our commitment to our neighbors. If you are searching for a way to help to make the world a better place, there are people in this church who can help you find it. Finally, CCUU will make you think. We have been fortunate to have so many members and friends of the congregation step up and deliver meaningful, thought-provoking sermons. I joined a congregation without a minister, and week after week, not only our visiting ministers, but members of our congregation, Alicia, Jim, Michelle, Sean, and others, stepped up and made me think about life, justice, faith in action, and doing good in the world. I'm proud to stand here today as a member of Community Church Unitarian Universalist.
And finally, we have Sally Jackson.
Don't worry too much. It's not a full sermon. It's just really large print. Okay. I was just basically going to talk about what drew me here. And I'll start by explaining I moved here from Fort Worth, Texas on July 1st of 2010. Took some time to get settled in, unpacking, arranging for a new job and all that. All that's entailed with relocating to not only a new city, but also a new state. It took some time to adjust not only to the changes in latitudes, changes in attitudes, Jimmy Buffett had that right. But also having a roommate for the first time at the age of 58. You know, family and spouses are not the same as just roommates. And that is the difference, is moving from the only church that you ever joined, actually born into. I had never had to go shopping for a church before. I did have the advantage of having been a professional musician in a large area. The Metroplex, as people called it, is mostly two very large cities and all the connecting surrounding areas. I played for special services and pageants in just about every denomination in the area. I played for special services and pageants, and anything I missed playing for them, I covered my other careers as a professional photographer, weddings a specialty, and of course, a videographer, where I recorded bar mitzvahs, and for the very first time heard of a bat mitzvah. I recorded that one for a friend. To explain some of the problems that I had in selecting a new church, I had transitioned, and I was now not only looking for a church that accepted my values and beliefs, but also one that would more than just allow a trans woman to attend. I suppose I should explain the difference between a few definitions of words used to describe congregations. Inclusive, you hear that a lot. Including everything or everyone, leaving no one or no part out. However, that does not outline how everyone is treated. Tolerating is enduring something unpleasant without fighting it or allowing their behaviors and beliefs if they're different from your own. Again, failing to discuss treatment of the individuals. Accepting, sounds good, open-minded, non-judgmental, and willing to embrace diversity or new ideas. But addressing how each person should be treated, embrace could just mean letting you in. Now I'll come to the important one, welcoming. A person, place, or action is extremely friendly, hospitable, and warm. At last, a definition that outlines how everyone should be treated. And during all of my time settling into the new environment, the new routines, and a second roommate, I should point out that we all had been moderators on a transgender suicide prevention website and have become close enough friends to have all traveled to Memphis to meet in person. I worked so many weekends that I hadn't even started to look for a new church. My roommate had already gotten me into PFLAG New Orleans, and that's been a good thing, eventually leading into hosting a radio program for at least 10 years. We don't know how much longer. But oddly enough, it was my atheist roommate who invited us to attend a church service. She'd been invited to attend by the president of the board of CCUU. It was her financial advisor appointed to manage her investments after she moved here from Ohio. We attended our first service at the Annex, still a few months away from moving into our new building. The experience was amazing. Here we were, three elderly trans women early in our transitions, and we were greeted and surrounded by people who seemed to feel that being transgender was probably the least important or interesting thing about us. Not the fact that two of us were over 6 feet tall, that the other was wearing a very long red ponytail, almost waist length, but they wanted to talk about our interest in previous church and work backgrounds. The things that most of us want to know about people we meet at church or anywhere else. As we left, a number of people hugged us and invited us back. That made an amazing impression, and one that was very different from many of the encounters I had heard about in my years as a suicide prevention counselor and a member of PFLAG. In case you're wondering, we did decide to come back and join. That was in 2011. My roommates attended all the classes and joined a couple of months before I was able to attend enough to learn enough about the church to become a member. But knew this was where I wanted to be. My work schedule made my attendance rather sporadic. It was either because of this or in spite of this that I was greeted each time with such enthusiasm. My roommates joined the worship ministry, and one became the president of the board. Apparently not the first trans woman to hold that position in this church. And as I can personally attest, she was not the last. Just to let you know, in all of the years of attending that church in Fort Worth, I never served any position other than member. Here I've been on the worship ministry, served as president-elect, president, and then I stayed on for a couple of years as a consultant for the board president. I was on the search committee for our new minister twice. And none of it's really been that difficult, not even serving as president. I just wanted to let you know I'm here because I want to be, and that work isn't really all that hard if you enjoy and believe in what you're doing.
So we do have some time, not a lot of time, but some time. If there are folks who would like to speak as to why they are part of this community, please come on. Just try to keep your remarks to a couple minutes so we can try to fit as many people in who would like to speak.
I can do that. I love that you talked about Avis, Alan. Where's Alan? Oh, yes. How many of you remember the auction where I was the auctioneer? Does anybody remember that? Joel. Avis contributed a car for that auction. And that was just the most amazing. And I had never been an auctioneer before, but everybody knew I had a big mouth and I could be an actress and I could do that. So it was so much fun to do that. Everything I've ever done with this church was fun. No matter how boring it seemed like it was meant to be or supposed to be or people thought it would be, it was always fun. Being in the choir, always fun. I haven't been back in a while, but part of being here, and I was a member for a long time, part of being here and being able to come back here, I arrived last Sunday and the first thing I was like, oh, I can go to CCUU. I was so happy that I could come. I had a car. I'm on a house sit now for a month. So I get to visit for a month. And after that, I'm going to be I have a radio show that I'm starting on WGSO called Heidi on the Road. So I'll be here for 3 months to root it into the ground because everywhere I go, I'm a New Orleanian. Everywhere I go. And I always talk about what happened with Katrina here because it affected me so deeply because I was supposed to have my first ever solo in the choir the Sunday after Katrina. I've never had a solo. But that wasn't the most important thing. I discovered when I went to Portland, I've been to 60 Unitarian churches now as I travel the world as a pet sitter. And when I went to Portland, I had no idea who I was going to meet there. But the sermon was given by the Reverend Emeritus Bob Sinkford. And he was the president of the UUA at the time of Katrina. And I was part of the committee to rebuild the church. And I did the videos. I edited and cut and shot all the videos that we did around town to persuade the UUA to help us regain and regrow the church. And I was, after the service, during the service when he was announced, I started crying. And when I went up to him afterwards and I said, Reverend Singford, can I give you a hug? Because you made all the difference to us. I'm from CCUU in New Orleans, and you brought us back to life because you invigorated the UUA to send us lots and lots of donations. And without that, who knows if we'd be here. We've had to change homes so many times. During those days, it was so confusing. Where are we meeting this Sunday? Oh, okay, wait, how do I get there? It was crazy. But he hugged me back, and I was house sitting for a month on Vashon Island, and I would drive in every time. I would drive down to go to Portland, to go to church, just so I could see him and hug him and feel that strength that came through the UUA to us here. And so I bring that gratitude everywhere I go, to UU churches everywhere, because they sent money, they sent volunteers, and they helped rebuild this beautiful place. And Alan, I want to speak. So I hear you're part of the worship committee. I'll be here for 3 months. Thanks, you guys.
We have time for one, maybe two more, Elise.
So there are a couple of pieces to this. My name is Elise Pichotti. I am now Vice President-elect. You know the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? So I was born Roman Catholic, Jewish mother, Roman Catholic, atheist father. It was an interesting upbringing. And that bed was too big and too hard, and it was very uncomfortable, and I didn't like anything that it stood for. So then I was kind of floundering around on my own for a long. I was always spiritual. I had issues with organized religion, so let's say that that's the bed that was too soft. I found another bed that was too large. For a little while, I was living in Sarasota after I had been living in New Orleans and become a member of this church. And the Unitarian Church in Sarasota, Florida, 500-600 members, something like that. It's an enormous church. And my children and I just felt lost. And then there's CCUU. And this bed feels just right. It's the right size. You can, in fact, get to know everybody. I've got people here who have been mom. I've got sisters and brothers in the people have come out of the woodwork to help me. Walter Laban, who had no business carrying all that furniture for me, have just come out of the woodwork to do amazing things. And my family is not here. My family is scattered. So this is home. And I will say that there are a handful of us in this room whose hopes, time, sweat, and a little bit of blood are in these walls. This congregation had done most of the work necessary to fund this church before I became president when we built it. But then there was a moment when the congregation looked at me and said, here's $1 million, build us a church. I think we did pretty good.
I want to thank our speakers for sharing their thoughts on this community. I hope that it inspires and challenges all of us to keep thinking about who we are and what we want to be, both as individuals and as a body. May it be so. Community Church is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online, by text, or in person this morning, and see the information on the back of your order of service for giving by text. You may remain seated for our offertory hymn, which is number 181 in the hardback hymnal, no matter if you live now far or near. 181. Our benediction comes from Cynthia Landrum. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other. Our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues. Until we are together again, friends. Be strong, be well, be true, be loving. You may rise for our closing hymn, which is back to the teal paper back hymnal, number 1057, Go Lift It Up, and then remain standing for our chalice extinguishing after. Let us extinguish our chalice together. We extinguish our chalice. Please join us across the hall for refreshments and fellowship. Thank you so much. Good morning.